China doesn't surround America with troops, but with supply chains. From medicines to microchips to electric batteries, the US depends heavily on Chinese manufacturing. After imposing steep tariffs, some as high as 145%, America hoped to curb that dependence. But China didn't slow down. While Washington played trade defense, China expanded its reach across 78 ports, 5 continents, and a $1 trillion railway stretching from Xi'an to Europe. Even as tariffs ease, dropping from 145% to 30%, China's momentum continues. ASEAN, Africa, Latin America. Demand for Chinese goods is surging. Now, the US is striking back, not with sanctions, but with steel and silicon. A $1 trillion wave of megaprojects is reshaping the American landscape. Semiconductors, batteries, electric vehicles, all aimed at restoring US industrial power and reducing dependency. In this video, you'll see how America is rebuilding, factory by factory, and decide for yourself. Can the US reclaim its place as the world's manufacturing superpower? It didn't start with a warhead, it started with a shipping container. In the early 2000s, while America debated offshoring and quarterly profits, China played the long game. The Belt and Road Initiative, China's $1 trillion megavision, quietly stitched together 78 ports across 32 countries, creating a maritime Silk Road of influence stretching from Kenya to Karachi. Overland, it built iron arteries like the new Eurasian Land Bridge, running straight from Xi'an to Rotterdam, slicing through Central Asia and Russia with trains full of tech. But infrastructure was just the skeleton. The lifeblood? Trade. By 2025, even as the US pulled levers of tariffs, China's exports surged 8.1% year over year. Why? Because while Washington turned inward, Beijing turned everywhere else. Exports to ASEAN, up 21%. To Africa, up 25%. To Latin America, a 17% rise. To the EU, a solid 8.3% bump. Cut off one arm and 5 others grow back. Where the US once loomed as China's primary buyer, it's now just another dot in a constellation. The top Chinese exports, machinery, electronics, EV batteries, solar panels, no longer destined solely for US ports, but for highways in Nigeria, power grids in Chile, and assembly lines in Germany. When the US passed tariffs on Chinese hats, Chinese companies quietly shifted production to Vietnam, Laos, and Haiti, labeling the goods made elsewhere, yet routing the profits home. They adapted faster than the tariffs could be enforced. China may have dominated the global supply chain, but now the US is striking back with multi-billion-dollar megaprojects that aim to flip the script. And it all begins in the Arizona desert. TSMC, Arizona. In the desert outside Phoenix, TSMC, the world's top semiconductor manufacturer, is building 3 cutting-edge fabs in Arizona, marking the largest foreign direct investment in US history at $100 billion. TSMC is hiring thousands locally, preparing for 3-nanometer chip production by 2027, and planning even more advanced 2-nanometer chips by the decade's end. These chips are critical for next-gen tech from iPhones to fighter jets. The rapid US government approvals, including overnight zoning law changes, underscored how urgently America sees this project as essential to national security. The US backed the project with $6.6 billion in grants and $5 billion in federal loans. Taiwan's chip giant now calls Arizona home. But behind closed doors, this isn't just business. US national security officials raised private concerns that if China moves on Taiwan, America's entire tech infrastructure could collapse. In response, the US Commerce Department fast-tracked zoning laws overnight to break ground immediately. The race against Beijing had officially begun. But as bulldozers shape the desert, the real question looms. Can Phoenix rival Hsinchu when the first wafers roll out? Intel Ohio, The new Silicon Heartland Intel is transforming Ohio into the Silicon Heartland. Backed by the $52 billion CHIPS Act, Intel broke ground on a $28 billion Megafactory, its biggest investment ever. The complex could eventually expand into a $100 billion manufacturing hub, aimed at restoring U.S. chip leadership. But building fabs at this scale takes time and resources, with local protests over water usage and delays pushing production into the 2030s. Intel's Ohio push shows the challenge of rebuilding industrial power in real time. Intel isn't just building chips, it's reclaiming American industry. But massive chip factories are thirsty, needing thousands of gallons of water per minute. Local protests erupted, challenging the scale. Still, the Biden administration doubled down, knowing that falling behind in chips isn't just an economic loss, it's a national security disaster. Meanwhile, China lodged furious diplomatic protests, calling America's CHIPS Act a declaration of economic war. Samsung Texas fab. Texas isn't just cattle and crude anymore. In Taylor, a $17 billion fusion of innovation and diplomacy is under construction. Samsung's semiconductor juggernaut, backed by a rare US-Korea tech pact. While Washington tightens export controls on China, it's rolling out the red carpet for allies who can help fill the gap. Behind closed doors, this alliance is strategic. South Korea's chipmakers bring what America urgently needs: extreme miniaturization tech. But this isn't just manufacturing, it's a geopolitical firewall. As trade routes shift and alliances harden, one question remains: can the Lone Star lead a global tech realignment? Micron memories. Reboot memory, that silent force behind every smartphone, server, and satellite, is finally coming home. After decades of offshoring, Micron is betting $100 billion to reboot America's lost DRAM legacy in the plains of Idaho and the suburbs of Buffalo. No American company has built DRAM fabs on home soil since 2012. This isn't just about scale, it's about sovereignty. Micron's move marks a tectonic shift. And as the CHIPS Act unlocks billions, memory might just be the linchpin in America's comeback. Can the US remember how to lead the memory war it once dominated? Apple's global shift. While chipmakers fortify America's tech base, Apple is quietly redrawing its global supply chain map. In late 2022, when China's pandemic restrictions disrupted its massive Zhengzhou iPhone hub, Apple responded with a rapid shift. Engineers were quietly relocated, and new production plans accelerated. Today, Apple has built a $700 million Foxconn plant in Karnataka, India, and expanded major assembly operations in Vietnam internally. The plan was known as Operation iPhone Independence, a bold move to reduce risk and reposition Apple's manufacturing footprint. Now, 1 in every 7 iPhones is made in India, with a goal to produce all US-bound iPhones outside China by 2026. As iPhones cross new borders, one question grows louder. Can Apple truly exit China, quietly and completely? Tesla Mexico Gigafactory. Then there's Tesla, which took a different route, just across the border. In Monterrey, Mexico, Elon Musk is building a $5 billion Gigafactory to produce 500,000 electric vehicles a year by 2027. Strategically placed under the USMCA trade agreement, Tesla's Mexico plant avoids Chinese dependencies and bypasses tariffs while staying deeply connected to the US supply chain. It's manufacturing redesigned for a new era, close to home and built to last. Quiet exits and bonus moves. Not every move comes with a press release. As the world watches chip plants rise, giants like Amazon and Dell are quietly slipping out the side door, shifting up to 30% of electronics assembly to Vietnam and Malaysia by the end of 2025. Apple, once the poster child of Chinese dependency, now promises $50 billion in American factories. But they aren't alone. From laptops to LEDs, the real shift is happening under the radar. Supply chain exits aren't dramatic. They're strategic, silent, and mostly unseen. And if the world's biggest companies are quietly relocating from China without headlines, what else is happening that we're not even seeing yet? In 2022, America unleashed $280 billion in funding and tossed it across the Pacific. The CHIPS and Science Act wasn't just legislation. It was a declaration. The future of semiconductors would be made in America, or not at all. Beyond the subsidies came the sanctions. In 2023, America cut off China's access to EUV, the machines that etch tomorrow's chips. The message was clear: no more shortcuts, no more shared innovation, and no more lifelines. But as America closes doors, China looks for windows. Can one act of Congress outbuild an empire decades in the making? America's trillion-dollar supply chain escape is underway. But freedom comes with a deadline. Chip fabs take years. Workers take decades to train. And the world's most critical materials still come from the very country the US seeks to leave behind. Semi projects a shortage of 67,000 skilled semiconductor workers. By 2030, over 70% of rare earth elements still come from China, according to the US Geological Survey, 2024. New fabs take an average of 3 to 5 years before full production. Gina Raimondo, US Secretary of Commerce. This is about ensuring American leadership in critical technologies. The CHIPS Act is not just investment, it's vision. Jim Farley, CEO of Ford. We can't keep importing critical battery materials from overseas. If we want to electrify, we have to bring the supply chain home. Defense analysts say, the next conflict won't just involve weapons, it will revolve around chips. Control the fabs, control the future of technology. So the real countdown begins. Not to launch the next factory, but to prove the US can rebuild its industrial base before the next supply chain shock strikes. But this is just the beginning. In Part 2, we go even deeper. The rare earth race. Inside America's critical mineral megaprojects, we'll uncover the quiet battle to reduce US dependence on China's control over the minerals that power everything, from electric vehicles to national defense. Inside Mountain Pass, inside new global alliances, inside the most high-stakes mining initiative of the 21st century. But before you go, ask yourself this. Can America really lead the tech future if it still relies on China for the ground beneath its feet? Tell me what you think in the comments, because this question may just define the next decade. Share this video with someone who still thinks chips come from a box. Subscribe to follow this unfolding race for technological independence. Thanks for watching. In a world moving too fast, you slow down to think. That means everything.